Mini British GT rolls into Spa-Francorchamps in the Belgian mountains. A wet day, but still a fantastic day for a race. Welcome into round 3 of Mini British GT 2026. I'm Jesse Lee here with Jack Mays. Ash Bibby behind the cameras as per usual. Qualifying just about underway. The first laps being turned. Jack, welcome in. And, well, there's some days where it pays to have a roof over your head. Today is certainly one of those days. The rain absolutely chucking it down with no end in sight here.
Yeah, it's looking like it's just going to be a typical Belgian evening for a motorsport event. Absolutely no sign of stopping. Maybe the slightest possibility of about 5 minutes of dryness at the beginning of the race is what I've been told from the powers that be, but it should be like this all day. Maybe we'll dry out here and there with the number of cars that we have pounding around the circuit. We figured that maybe the rain might scare some drivers away. Absolutely not. 36 drivers are here at the moment, and will all 36 make it through the hour-long race we have upcoming? Well, only time will tell. For the moment, we are in GT3 qualifying, as with the British GT. GT3s goes first, GT4s go second. It is Joe Dauber who has been very, very quick in practice and continues to show that pace as he's standing on provisional pole with 3 minutes remaining. Nico Kumpu is following him. Both teammates, both sharing the same car, showing that the 488, the old girl, still got a bit of pace. Thibaut Roskam is currently in third. Andrzej Batek in fourth. Adam Krekske, the young driver, in fifth. And Jesse, this name, one we're very familiar with, returning in style, drifting all over the place in his Ford Mustang GT3. This is the first time he's taken the wheel of ACC in who knows how many years, but bringing the Race Ventura name back to RCI for the final time. It's Ted Edwards. And will he have a good race? Will there be the return of the Ted Send? Jesse Lee? I kind of hope so.
Well, Ted Edwards choreographed his move. He told us that he was going to be back in the Stang, potentially a favorite car for him. We have this joke that Ted Edwards quite likes American things. I believe it even says the fake American over the door of that car. It is a gorgeous car, admittedly. The Race Ventura livery sort of reimagined for the Ford Mustang, but not doing too bad for a driver that has spent the majority of his time racing in other sims, automatically inside the top 10 early in this qualifying session. And that's not too bad indeed. It looks like they have some improvement they could do in a couple of sectors, but still getting the rust off, very important, hard to do in the wet of all things as well. You know what they say, rain, the great equalizer, not so for the top couple thus far. Joe Dauber, a 2:28.225, the current mark to beat. Nico Kumpu nearly 3/4 of a second down from that. Thibaut Roskam holds the third position, but it looks like Andrzej Batek is about to come across the line in the Lexus and show us what that car can actually do. It's 7/10 of improvement to 29.397. That put him in third briefly. Well, only briefly, as Martin Lawrence has gone third quickest, a little less than a second off. Everybody chasing Joe Dauber.
Yeah, Dauber is really doing a great job, but I think his qualifying is brought to the end. He thinks that's about as good as I can do, and for the moment, a heck of a margin, so I think he's reasonably comfortable. The final flying laps for all of our GT3 drivers are beginning underway, and I have to say, big fan of the Turner Motorsport car. It seems that McKenna McConnell sort of rolling the dice on a livery every week until a permanent one is found. So it's good to see the Turner car flying around. I feel like that's a very appropriate car for an American driver.
Well, McKenna,
that nobody can see.
Well, I mean, McKenna does love Turner Motorsport. I've talked to her about it before. She likes the Licamoli livery, the blue and yellow Turner. It's one of the things that I do know about her motorsports choice. Also likes BMW quite a bit as well. So it makes sense that McKenna McConnell would pick this car.
Yeah, and as we're, of course, going to go on board, Ash Bibby gives us a little bit of flavor, a little bit of taste of what it looks like. And it does look a little bit strange, of course. Gamepad driver, very similar looking to when her husband is behind the wheel, which I think is very interesting and perhaps a bit of a coincidence, but for those of you who've been paying attention, not quite as much of a coincidence as you might think, but McKenna McConnell struggling a bit in qualifying for the moment, still trying to get up onto a podium. That's the goal for the season, is to step up onto the podium at some point, but 7th is what they're going to do. Nico Kompu is getting ready to finish their flying lap. It's looking like they're about half a second up as they come into the final corner, the bus stop chicane, and things are looking good. It might be very close. It's actually going to be extremely close coming across the line. I don't think, though, Kompu is going to have it on Dauber, but it's a half a second improvement, 2/10 closer. McKenna McConnell also up on their time, looking by about the same margin. It's going to be very close between them and Badowski across the line. Not quite there, but still a good improvement. That brings the end to the GT3 half of qualifying, and it brings us now to the little boys, the GT4. Still fun, still a handful in these wet conditions, and based on what I saw in practice, Jesse, it kind of seems like it's anybody's guess. We've gotten used to seeing the regular top 3, top 4 in the past 2 rounds, but I think it is equalizing a lot more for the GT4s than perhaps the GT3s.
I think it's just harder, Jack, to have an advantage in a GT4 car. They're quite a bit slower, a little bit more similar, simplistic aero. And on top of that, I think, too, there's more of them, which provides more opportunity for close sort of racing and times as well. All of that considered, you're going to see that here today. The rain, the great equalizer indeed, and everybody's stacking up before the chicane. And what they're trying to do, some of the drivers are trying to find sort of clear racetrack, though they've all arrived at the Formula One start-finish straight at the same time. A couple of cars shooting the gap through there, trying their best to sort of just find position, and they all end up leaving on their lap at the same time anyway.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like, low visibility conditions. You're focusing on your braking point for the next corner, and you come around out of Blanchimont, and you're like, these cars are stacking up. I'm going to hit the brakes. Oh, it's wet. Oh, it's not slowing down as well. See the Alpine shooting it a little bit further, and here's a good look of what's to expect. The driver's eye view in the spray as well. Kevin Boss starting their lap behind Callum Kerrigan, and it looks like, unfortunately for Kevin Boss, and unfortunately for Kerrigan as well, they're going to have to do a little bit of racing in their opening qualifying lap. One of them certainly going to have to give way, but I don't think that's happening. And you can see in the rear view mirror, Kerrigan backs off, says, all right, fine, you got a better exit than me here, but let's work it out a little bit. But all these GT4s stacked up for the first couple of laps is never a good thing. And on a circuit as long as this, they don't have that many laps to go. So to waste one on a bit of traffic mismanagement, Jesse, I think might bite some of them in the butt later on. But for the moment, we're still waiting for our benchmark GT4 time to be set.
No, you couldn't be more right about that, Jack, because these cars are even slower than GT3s. I would say, because it is a split qualifying, you got 10 minutes for GT3, which we've already done, and now 10 minutes for GT4. For those that may not be aware of the qualifying procedure that we have for this mini British GT season, you don't have a lot of time at Spa. There's a couple other tracks where it's also a bit of a tight sort of qualifying run. You may only get a couple laps, but never more prevalent than here at Spa-Francorchamps. You're absolutely right. You waste a lap, you only have one left. I've always certainly favored having one super safe lap where we don't even look at curbs and then kind of just go for it on the second lap. But a couple of drivers running afoul of that, a couple of them being too close together indeed. But Nikolai Polyakov goes across the line and sets our first representative lap, a 2:29 for them. Well, actually, I say it's the first representative lap. It isn't the first representative lap, as cars have indeed already come through. But it was a 2:29. A lot of the drivers in the 2:29. Look at that. How many of them are so close? A tenth there, 2 tenths, 1 tenth. exactly what you said was going to happen, Jack, with the field being so close in GT4. That has come to pass even on lap number 1. Everyone just about within a tenth of the car in front and behind. Exactly what you expected.
Yeah, and those are going to spread out. Everybody definitely seeming like, if you look at the track map on your right, everybody really starting to spread out a bit more, give each other a bit more space. I think more needs to be said about the Maserati GT4 especially. Nikolai Polyakov, we saw him last week at Oulton Park. He was absolutely the quickest of the bunch. But the unique thing about that car that no other GT4 car in this field shares, it's lacking both traction control and ABS. No electronics whatsoever. And in these conditions, that is supremely difficult to handle. So just for them to come out and make it round better than I could do on my best day, for sure. It's definitely going to be a tricky one and a measured driving style compared to how much maybe they've been able to push in days and the weeks past. We got a group of 4 cars that are kind of all one after the other, a Ginetta, a Camaro, a Maserati, and an Aston Martin in the back of shots. Yet again, Jesse, one of my favorite things in motorsport, the top, what is that, 7 cars are all in different manufacturers. It's great. It's equalizing is the rain, and everybody showing that their car of choice is going to get them as high up as they want. This is our greased weasel, though, that we're on board with now. Andy Boardman, a staple of the Monday champ, Jesse, and he's been quick so far in the opening rounds, and I'm wondering if he's thinking maybe in this wet condition, a good result could push him forward in the championship standings.
Yeah, you talk about brand parity in the GT class. I mean, of course, that's what SRO had in mind with the GT3 class, the GT4 class, and so on and so forth, inviting manufacturers to have their own identity, but also have fair racing via BOP. And I think that this series highlights how well that is done in Assetto Corsa Competizione, and you're seeing that exactly that in the GT4 class right now as they qualify. Again, rain helping just a little bit, but we saw this at Oulton Park. We see this all the time. The GT4s are just so incredibly close as everyone now completing, well, the vast majority, I should say, are completing a second lap around, and the times, instead of getting further away in some instances, they're only getting closer. Raphael Huell, the quickest in GT4 over Winch, Boardman, Stubna, Picano, the top 5. Polyakov getting about a 6th place run in a car that doesn't have ABS, doesn't have traction control, old school indeed. And the Mad Lads, we have 4 Maseratis in this race today. It has been a long time. I think back to Bathurst 2021, 2022 was the last time I saw this many Maseratis. And can you imagine that, Jack, all that time ago, racing Maseratis around Mount Panorama without any sort of aids? And they did it. I think a Maserati may have won that race, in fact, all that time ago. I could be wrong about that. My memory quite hazy back in the day. But I definitely recall Maserati defeating some teams, underdog story, as it were. Final few seconds of qualifying ticking away here. Everyone, of course, on a valid lap will get to complete that lap. Question remains, though, will we see any surprises pop up in timing and scoring here when we cross the line? Ooh.
Yeah, there's still a couple of drivers that haven't actually set a lap yet. I think it's just Mario Sergio at this point down in 35th there, trying to set a valid lap. And I'm noticing, I'm also looking at the YouTube chat. Hello, good evening, everybody who's watching. But Grim Lilith, husband of McKenna McConnell, saying that McKenna really tried to take a step forward in that final lap. We were looking at it and pointing out that Aaron Jackson is going to have a lot to do in the start of the race because Aaron Jackson did not qualify. It is in a GT3 car, the Nissan GTR GT3. They will be starting at the very back of the field, and we saw a bit of that happening at Oulton, and it seemed difficult. I can only imagine how much more difficult it's going to be tonight at Spa-Francorchamps with the absolutely pissing down weather that we are experiencing right now. But drivers getting ready to come across the line. Not many improving hugely. So Stubna getting closer. A lot of drivers getting closer to Raphael Huel's time, but Huel at the moment still on provisional pole. Kevin Boss now, he's not up on his time, but he's going to complete this final lap. Kyle Kerrigan just behind, I believe was up on theirs. Stays 28th, does Boss. Cal Kerrigan 27th. Just a few more stragglers remaining, one of which being our beloved Maseratis that I have just fallen in love with the sound of and the idea of. It seems like an old school car in a new school kind of racing. But Gianni Lenz is going to come across the line, and they're going to make a bit of improvement, but still only 30th overall for them. And now it's just the slightly longer wait for Damian Lowe to come across the line, as well as Mike Redford, who's at the very tail end of the field. So, gentlemen, this is your moment. The eyes of the world are on you. You have the track all to yourself. Make it look good. Damian Lowe, at the moment, is up on their time hugely, just about 2 seconds. So we should expect a bit of a jump for them. It was 2 positions. As it turns out, Mike Redford wasn't on a valid lap, so he, unfortunately, Jesse, didn't get his moment. But that is qualifying.
Results of qualifying in, starting with the GT3 field. Joe Dauber over Nico Kumpu. That's your front row. Martin Lawrence Baddock the next. Roscombe, Badowski, McConnell, Kreske, Shipston, Ted Edwards, the top 10. Behind them, William Stevenson, Svinchek, Varga, Whittle, Morgan, Fox, and Jackson will be your qualifiers for GT3. Moving on swiftly to GT4. Raphael Huel outlasts Winch for the pole position. Behind them in row 2, Stubna and Boardman, Picano and Polyakov, Sergio Redford, Watts, and Kerrigan, the top 10. Klimov, Boss, Fantozzi, Lowe, Lenz, Schaefer, Tucky, Frev, and Fox, the 19 GT4s. And from the starting grid to the championship standings, we go down to Jack.
As we're coming in to round 3, of course, this is not our 3rd race of the season. It is the 4th. We had the heat race last week. Martin Lawrence still, after all of that, leading the championship by an incredibly narrow margin to Marco Badowski, who's in 2nd. Thibaut Roskam is in 3rd. Joe Dauber 4th. Adam Kreske, after his incredible run of winning both races after not being in round 1, is up into 5th. McKenna McConnell in 6th. Nico Kumpu in 7th. Andrzej Batek 8th. Aaron Jackson 9th. And Emo Plate in the Lamborghini rounding out the top 10 for GT3. Andy Boardman is our championship leader in GT4. Consistency and showing up coming better than maybe out and out results. Sebastian Picano in 2nd. Mike Redford 3rd. Nikolai Polyakov in 4th. Raphael Huel 5th. Klimov 6th. Wareham 7th. Sergio 8th. Henrik SC in 9th. And Martin Schaefer. 3 Maseratis in the top 10, rounding them out. It's very close, Jesse. Of course, we're only at round 3 of 8, so plenty more to show. Nothing really making itself known in the championship fight so far. There's so much to play for, always, once you get going on a championship like this. We are now getting going with the patented, gorgeous, patented twice over grid walk, the drone walk with Ash, baby. It gives us a really good idea of two things: how pretty these race cars are and how freaking big this grid is. This is is it cheap, Jesse, to say the word of the day is going to be chaos again? That was what it was last week, or can we come up with something better?
Well, I think last week everything was quite civil. Most incidents were single car, self-induced spins, a couple of incidents, of course, as you'll have in any motor race. But I think you're right, though. I think today is going to be absolute chaos. The rain, the weather, I think we'll talk about the elephant in the room first. It is chucking it down here in the Eifel Mountains, Belgium, and it is, or actually the Ardennes, rather. Are we in the Ardennes or the Eifel? They're technically beside each other. If you look on the map, they're beside each other, and one range is part of the other range. It all gets confusing. Anyway, the point is that it's chucking it down here. It's not going to stop anytime soon. In fact, it's going to get worse. The drivers will have known that. They will have seen the weather report. It's raining. It's going to get harder. these conditions are going to deteriorate even further, and this is going to become quite tricky. But before they can worry about all that, they have to make it through lap number 1. The question remains, the Kimmel Straight after Eau Rouge Raidillon can be devastating, and often is, in a blind spray with 36 plus cars. You're going to go into the Kimmel blind. I just hope that by the time we make it around for lap 1, we still have the majority of the field. This is the most dangerous that it could possibly be, not only for GT3, but for GT4 as well. And yeah, I think that is the order of the day. Chaos and survival. I like to use the word survival. That is going to be absolutely key. And did they put Aaron Jackson at the back of the field? That's right, because this is not like LMU that it'll still group you in your classification. It does put you all the way at the back. And indeed, there is Godzilla, the Sindless GTR. And they will, yeah, they're going to have to. If I was Aaron Jackson, I'll ask you, Jack, but if I was Aaron Jackson, I would not even attempt to race anyone clearly quicker than the GT4 field. I would just back off here, give them a wide berth on the first half of this first lap. But what would you do if you are Aaron Jackson?
I would absolutely take it easy through turn 1, all the way up through Eau Rouge Raidillon. Maybe pick up a couple of cars down the Kimmel Straight. It kind of depends. A lot of times you'll see them going 2x2. If they're doing that, I wouldn't then make it 3 wide. But if you can sort of pick a gap, find space, I'd say maybe go for it. But I would absolutely be taking it as easy as possible, because starting from the back like that is just, it's a danger in and of itself. It's a huge one, and you certainly don't want to ruin your own race. You certainly don't want to ruin the races of any of the other cars, any of the other GT4s you're making your way through. But I think, Jesse, careful, very, very relaxed as you can be in these conditions, and just pick your way through. Maybe a couple of cars lap 1, wait for them to spread out. The field spread should be pretty quick given the conditions. Everybody's going to want to find their own space. So once they do that, lap 2, lap 3, find your way up. It is a long lap after all. It is a reasonably long race. An hour is a lifetime in conditions like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Jackson finds himself up and in the fight with a couple of other GT3 cars before the day is done. The formation lap has begun, and we're getting the gorgeous picture that we've come accustomed to every week of the cars rattling down, showing the size of the grid. And Aaron Jackson was actually not the very last car, so I don't know if he's getting a little bit impatient. Everybody now sort of sighting the track. Jesse, I feel like something that maybe isn't well appreciated or well enough appreciated on these formation laps is in conditions like this, where ultimately there could be a different level of dampness on the circuit than there was in qualifying. You can see it for yourself, and you're going slow enough, obviously, that you can really pick out, okay, there's a puddle there that wasn't there earlier. Okay, there's not a puddle here. All right, this curb looks soaked. I really shouldn't touch that. And you can use that to your advantage, and also just to focus, just to get ready for what will ensue in lap 1, what will ensue in turn 1. I put my money on that everybody's going to be nice and careful. After what we saw at Oulton Park, 39 cars making it through lap 1 with not a single incident, I think everybody's going to use that, learn for that, realize, all right, we can be smart here and work together. I think it's going to be not a boring turn 1, Jesse, but not a chaotic one, as chaotic as it could be.
Well, I'm actually going to go the opposite direction. I hate to be contrarian, but I will be on this particular occasion. I suspect that this is going to be utter chaos in maybe a rare RCI race restart. I just worry about these weather conditions. This is as wet as it's been in an RCI race in a number of years. And it's at the most formidable track. And on top of that, there are so many cars in different classes. The fudge factor is next to zero. I'm not saying we're going to get a race restart here, but I am saying that if we were going to, this is the prime opportunity. Of course, let's hope that isn't the case. But going to the front of the grid, Joe Dauber, Nico Kumpu. Joe Dauber has the most unenvious of tasks. Everybody else gets to follow. Joe Dauber has to pioneer this first lap. They're going to be the ones that are going to sort of investigate the grip. They're the ones that are going to find the puddles first. And they're the ones that are going to have to figure out where the limit is, while everyone else gets to just play Simon Says if they really want to. Unenviable position. Pole position, incredibly valuable indeed. Clear vision. But that doesn't make the track any less treacherous, especially if you're the one towing the line.
Yeah, it's just anything goes out there with as wet as it is. Raphael Huell, a similar job, a similarly unenviable position. However, he's going to be following the GT3s out through turn one equally, and he's going to be in the spray. He's just going to be as blind. But after the first couple of corners, I think after they get through the Lacombe chicane, maybe there'll be enough field spread where Huell is going to have the exact same job to do, is to go quick enough, set the pace for the field. I do not envy any of these drivers having to drive through any of the spray. I've done it on occasion, and it is so scary. We're stacking up, Jesse, getting ready to go underway to begin round 3. Take us out.
Well, here we go. Round number 3, Spa-Francorchamps Mini British GT 2016. Joe Dauber, Nico Kumpu at the top 2 GT3 cars, waiting and waiting. It is pure and absolute agony. You saw trying to jump there just to kind of feel like what it was going to be like. You wait forever with this many race cars. And what they're going to do is they're going to round the corner and start. And I think that is the best thing about ACC, is not starting on the Formula Straight. Despite that being where the line is, that is not where the race start is. Everyone filtering through, about ready to go. Everyone clears La Source. Heavy braking zone at the end of the Kimmel Straight, but for right now it's all about getting through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Still haven't started. We'll start right about here, and they do, as they very quickly get to single file. Dauber and Kumpu as they come through Eau Rouge and Raidillon for the very first time. The first several cars get single file very smartly indeed as the top 5 filter through, and they've just about made it the GT3 field. No major incident. What about GT4? I think they've also made it. No major incidents. They're 2 and 3 abreast, but they've somehow all made it. I can't believe it. Still 3 wide down the Kimmel.
They're doing unbelievably good work. Raphael Huell, though, maybe under a little bit of pressure here with Tom Winch around the outside. That's not Tom Winch, that's Miso Stubner and the Camaro trying to find their way through Lacombe chicane. Look at all the GT4, 2x2x2, like you said last week, Jesse, Noah's Ark style through the first chicane, but everybody giving each other so much space, keeping it as respectful as need be, but it's still hard wheel to wheel. But Raphael Huell got away through the chicane, and everybody filtering around now. Kevin Boss trying to find his way around Maserati. You can see there Aston Martin, that's Bruno Fantazzi, a little bit slow, backing up the field just a little bit of a Concertina effect, but still now 2x2 going down to Pouon. That's not a corner I envy that, but they've gotten through it. Sebastian Picano now around the outside, or now what has become the inside, a little bit of doors into Tom Winch. Does Sebastian Picano, and now he's immediately under threat by the Aston Martin behind. Everybody trying to find their way through, but Jesse, amazingly, they kept it together all the way through the lap.
There was argy-bargy throughout the entire field, but there was not a single car that was thrown into the barriers. That was, by all accounts, a fantastic, an expertly done start by every single driver in this field. My hat's off. I'm not wearing a hat, but if I was, I would take it off for every single driver in this field. That was absolutely brilliant. A textbook display of racing in incredibly difficult conditions. And you saw there some of the early melee cars making their way through, slipping and sliding, but more importantly, leaning on each other, but not wrecking. This is what you called here, Picciano getting sent off the racetrack. Probably the most serious on the incidents, and in relative terms, not a whole lot doing there. Just a brilliant start as we start lap 2.
I'm still in complete disbelief. We're still getting a couple replays here of early race melee. I assume maybe a little bit of contact. Yeah, it's Winch just into the back of that Maserati, just a little bit at the exit of the corner as they go into Lafayette chicane, but they're through now. Tom Winch down a few spots. A tricky start for sure. I think the bounciness of the ACC track physics really working against them there, and other sims that might be just a little touch. In this one, in the rain, you're getting sent way wide out of Puan, but here comes the GTR of Aaron Jackson. I think, Jesse, you might have listened to us both on taking it easy, because now that the field is a bit more opened up, he's able to slice and dice his way through. Godzilla's on the charge and trying to make his way forward. His eyes.
Kentucky.
Oh, it is. He's round. He's up at the top of the hill, I believe, and I'm worried that he might not get going. He's had a moment. Aaron Jackson, his eyes are firmly planted, though, on the GT3 field. It's Jeffrey Athix and Jacob Tucky both moving slowly.
Athix went off in La Source. The Tucky incident, which I believe involved the number 7 car, unrelated to Athix going off in La Source. Don't know what happened there. It looked like the 7. Now, it's also possible that the 7 car and the 118 were all unrelated to each other. But let's take a look. Let's go back and look at the replay, see what happened here to Jacob Tucky. Take it away.
So we got 2 wide there. There's a 488 on the outside, and Tucky tries to find his way up the inside of the Maserati, but it's just, they both basically plow straight on. Oh, and to try, that's something you really don't want to do in the wet, even less so. But Gianni Lenz and Jacob Tucky now having to limp their way back. But here's the thing I always say every week about Jacob Tucky. Most drivers, they're retiring after an incident like that. He's basically half a lap down now, and he hasn't even made it to pit lane, but he is going to get that car going. That is some of the worst steering damage I have ever seen. It's basically not moving, but Tucky's going to take this car back. He's going to repair it, and he's going to keep going around, because lo and behold, something happens to other drivers. He gets bumped up a couple of spots because of other retirements. Tucky never gives up. I call it the Tucky style of driving, and it seems to work for him. Peter Varga, though, I think, like you said, an unrelated incident, but still having fallen back in the opening moments. I do think that all the GT4s now are just hoping, all right, you had a bad start, please be nice. I know this is for position, but let's not get into any more crashes. This is McKenna McConnell maybe having an Adam Krexke on the inside. It is. It's a late move from Krexke, and you can see immediately feeling that was not the right thing to do, but coming to the stop
this is dangerous.
Oh, this is so dangerous. It's McConnell wide, it's Ted Edwards is round, and Krexke's made it through, but no, there's McConnell and Edwards. Somehow Ted ends up going straight after all of that, but you could see, Jesse, you can understand what Krexke was feeling. He thought, oh, I just sent somebody around, I need to let him back through, and sort of out of panic hit the brakes, but sort of forgot, I think, for a moment that there's a bunch of cars behind that are also going to be feeding through turn 1, and just found a parked McLaren there. And that created the incident that we just witnessed. Somehow, Edwards and Krexke got out unscathed, but unfortunately for the BMW McKenna McConnell, I don't think that car's going anywhere in a hurry.
Yeah, you could see that brewing down the Kimmel, and that's kind of what I was worried about on the initial start. It took us a couple laps to get there, Jack, but we did unfortunately get to that point. I've been a victim of that. I've been the instigator of that as well. You sort of Constantina together. Everyone gets different runs up Radion, and you end up 3 wide. The Kimmel straight isn't straight, it doglegs. And that's the problem. That's exactly where that occurred. They got 3 wide. They were all jumbled up. They made slight contact, but that's enough in any conditions, let alone these conditions. Sent a bunch of cars around. McKenna McConnell destroyed. Ted Edwards, regardless of being able to recover, that car is going to have significant damage on that Ford Mustang and several other cars rather besides. But let us update you on everyone else after all of that in the opening lap. Joe Dahmer continues to lead Nico Kumpu, and in the GT4 class, Rafael Huel over Mika Stubna, the top 2 in that class, separated by a couple of seconds though, but Picciano is right behind Stubna for P2. Meanwhile, the Kaiju GTR continues to drive around, and I believe that was Tucky who is continuing to make their way around the track to come back to pit lane for repairs, and it was Jacob Tucky indeed. Several other cars are now doing the exact same thing. The 13 trying to make their way back into the pit lane. Several cars not saying die here, as this is Martin Schaefer doing the very same. I think that car was involved in an incident, or maybe they just went off the racetrack a moment ago. Looks like it's going a bit slow. Yeah, that car's damaged.
It's not quite up to full speed. I think there's a little bit of steering damage. You're seeing it's right hand down, left hand down to sort of try to keep the car on the island. And I think Francorchamps is a real test of whether the car is working, and I don't think that car is quite working. Not really wanting to change down at all is Martin Schaefer, so I expect them to come down the pit lane early on, which is definitely tricky. Some drivers may be wishing, I wish this was a 90-minute race like last week. Actually, Martin Schaefer's going to carry around, so I think they're going to work out the issues. Look at that fishtail on the back end of that Maserati, and going to try to make their way forward, thinking that maybe we'll wait till the mandatory pit stop before we decide to do a repair. Anton Klimov now on the back of Kevin Boss for 27th overall, and just so impressed. Yes, we've seen just on that last lap a couple of big incidents and a couple of big ones on the lap before, but that's almost expected in these conditions. The fact that it hasn't been more than that, the fact that there's still so many cars so close together, you can see there's fighting packs of cars just about everywhere throughout the circuit. He's so impressive. Taking a quick look at our YouTube chat, being asked, is there a reason why older model cars are in the front and doesn't have something to do with BOP? I think there's two things. Yes, those cars, I know those three up at the front, the Ferrari and the BMW M6, all have 30 kilograms removed. However, I don't think that's why they are as fast as they are. I do genuinely put it to the talent of those three drivers. Martin Lorink, of course, needs no introduction. He's known as Czech Jesus around here for his ability to walk on water, and that M6 is not fast. I can promise you that, but he is absolutely wringing the neck. Nico Kumpu, Joe Dauber as well. Super quick drivers. Maybe the BOP is favoring them in the wet, but I do give it to them for just being incredibly quick drivers and mainstays of Mondays. And speaking of the old cars, the dueling pair of Will Stevenson and Jiraj Svenček in the Bentley. I think, Jesse, it's more appropriate to call it the Boatly today, but they are fighting their way up Eau Rouge Radio.
Yep. Yeah, it's been known for that sort of moniker for a very long time. Getting completely sideways is Jiraj Svenček, and trust me, that was well within their control. The Harry Carey Racing driver doing their very best to keep that car sideways but under control there. We've called it the Boatly in many cases today, meaning that quite literally indeed. And two cars that are just, man, in the final potentially. Mini British GT, right? It does my heart good to see a Jaguar and a Bentley racing each other inside the top 10 in the wet at Spa. That does something to my soul.
It makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'm not somebody who has been around the RCI commentators booth for as many years as perhaps you have. Not that I'm saying you're old, but, you know, anyways. Back
in my day, we used to race. We used to sim race in black and white or something, yeah.
Well, horse-drawn carriages and such. But Redford and Watts are trying to make themselves around. But no, I feel warm and cuddly. This sort of feels like I'm getting a glimpse into the golden age of the Monday champs. Have sort of become the de facto Mr. Monday for the last year or so, and it's been so great. But seeing a almost 40-car grid week in and week out on ACC is, I have no nostalgia for this sim, but it feels like I've come home. It feels like I'm putting on an old pair of boots. It's so wonderful, and it brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant to have not only the brand parity that you mentioned earlier before we went green, but to have so many drivers in cars out here. And the BOP too, provided by LFM, um, it's just brilliant because you've got the newer generation of these cars and the older generation of these cars that are all racing together and being competitive together. This is a brilliant culmination of everything that Assetto Corsa Competizione is, was, and will always be. And my hat's off to Kevin Boss, the mastermind behind this series. Certainly put all of the greatest hits in one championship. Will Stevenson might be in trouble coming up the Kimmel this time. That Jag is quick, but that Bentley got the run.
Yeah, it does have. I think the Jag just doesn't quite have the pull in the straight line, and down the inside, I think Svenček's going to go easily, and I think that's Adam Krekske who was just pulled over. I saw he had a drive-through penalty just then, and I think unfortunately for him, he's realized that after that start, after that incident, maybe he's thinking that penalty's the final straw that broke the camel's back. So I think that's going to be the end of his race for today, which is a bit of a shame, but I can understand the sentiment. When the fun stops, so do you, is the old adage by Mr. Callum Kerrigan, which I follow to a T. The good news for Svenček and Stevenson as a result is they're no longer fighting to get into the top 5 since they've just been promoted by a position, as has everybody in the field. So a little freebie, Jesse, never goes amiss, but they're fighting, passing and repassing, and that's very wide, very out of control for Will Stevenson. He's going to fire back onto the circuit, and he didn't hear no bell.
Yeah, he didn't. That was very close indeed. I thought there was going to be secondary contact there. There wasn't. Well done to Bill Stevenson, who was able to get it under control, and he's back in front now, look, for the time being. I think these drivers are just having fun, to be fair, and why not? It's a wet day. Some drivers relish this opportunity, by the way. There's some drivers that hate driving in the rain. Other drivers kind of, wring their hands like, yeah, it's raining. It's better for me. It really just depends. There's different horses, or different courses for horses, and these are two very unique ones going at it here.
Oh man, you can see Will Stevenson driving well over the limit, one could say, but still managing to hold on to their Jag. And Svenček, absolutely, these two are just enjoying this 100,000%. Sometimes different day, different circumstances, maybe in different cars, you'd be like, this guy keeps going off the track and he keeps re-entering and he keeps trying to race me. This isn't fair. Give me the position already. But no, they are reveling in this. This is 100% what all these drivers signed up for. One final hurrah for Mondays, one final chance to drive a lot of cars that they haven't driven in a long time. Bit of a race replay. Mike Redford and Tom Watts just ahead. Is it a little kiss from Kerrigan? It is. Kerrigan goes into the back, and well, he actually pushed him through the corner past Tom Watts.
Punt to pass. Quite literally.
That was incredible.
I can't believe that worked out. Normally, when that happens, that's a spin. But somehow that was literally a punt to pass. The argument to that is, well, I didn't mean to go in that corner like that. I was contacted from behind. But normally punt to pass has a different connotation. Foam horn, as we know it in the States. But that was analog assist is what that was in the tightest corner on the racetrack. These three going at it very close indeed. Miso Stubna has it for the Kermit Green Camaro. Everybody else behind him wants it, including Boardman.
Yeah, Boardman's thinking about it. He didn't necessarily have the best start. He dropped down a position or two, and now he's trying to fight his way back up. This is all good news for Raphael Huell out in the lead, because the more these fight, the more they slow down, and the more he can drive off into the sunset. But coming out of the Calm Chicane, the Camaro looking good. Andy Boardman, though, scrapping heavily with the Alpine just behind. We're going to jump back to GT3 versus GT4. Athox versus Redford, McLaren versus McLaren. Slightly more horsepower in one versus another, but Joffrey Athox off to a poor start. I remember seeing them, I think, facing the wrong way up the hill of Eau Rouge Radion, but they're trying to come back through the field and get their way to fight with an equal class. Svenček made their way past Will Stevenson. Will it stay? Will it hold? Maybe. Honestly, it feels like it's up to a coin toss between these two. It's the level of pass and repass, and the old girls. I don't know. I'll use the same joke I did in round one, where it seems like it's two old guys getting into a bar fight.
I don't know what you mean, but sure. To me, I just see two drivers who have raced each other for a number of years. They're having a little bit of fun here in these conditions, and it's a little give and take I saw between the two of them, as often you will find. But also, too, they're battling each other, but they're battling the elements as well. The gap, by the way, up at the front of the field was coming down. It was 2 seconds, and then it was 1.5, but now it's ballooned to 2.5. A lap or so ago, something occurred to the 256, the second place car, and they lost, I would say, considerable time, a second or more, but that has since stabilized between those two. But the damage done on the Delta, and they will have to gain that back. And of course, Martin Lawrence in third place, not going anywhere. Those three cars leading this field. They've got a gap to the rest, but neither or none of those cars pulling away from each other. Mike Redford working on another pass.
Yeah, this was the punt to pass that we just watched, but this time he's having to make it go without the aid of the Ginetta driven by Kerrigan. He's now driven away, but those two seeming like they've been scrapping all race. This time, though, Redford's gotten through, and it seems like Tom Watts, though, in the Porsche is maybe losing a bit of pace there, but I say that coming up the hill, massive speed, and he's going to make his way around, I do believe, down the Kemmel Straight as we're right back to them. But the McLaren, though, seeming to be quick in a straight line all series. Redford going defensive. It's going to be a late breaking fight in the rain, and they're equal there or thereabouts. Never mind, Redford much better on the brakes with the switchback here from the Porsche. He's going to try to hang his way around the outside. It feels like I'm watching a fight in slow motion, but I know they're on the ragged edge. Tom Watts finding his way through, a huge wiggle on the exit for Mike Redford. We're talking about pass and repassing. It's Bentley v Jag, and now we have pass repass GT4 edition, and it's Porsche v McLaren. As Jesse, now the mandatory pit window has opened.
Mandatory pit window, meaning that every driver, you see that amber number 1 beside the car number placard on the scoring pylon on the left-hand side of your screen. That one indicates that everyone has to do a mandatory pit stop at some point in the next 19 minutes and 20-some seconds. Ted Edwards brings the Race Ventura Ford Mustang in. He is the first to do so. He's going to bring Morgan with him. Clifford Morgan in the new Jazz Racing 100 Ferrari, and they will be among the first. Several drivers driving past the pit lane electing to go long. I would say going long, if you've had a decent start to your race and you're not mired in traffic, I'd say going long is probably the most obvious, but I'd say coming in now is obvious for Ted Edwards, of course, was involved in that earlier Kemmel Straight incident, mind you.
Yeah, it seems that Boardman found their way around Sebastian Picano just a few moments ago, because now it's the Alpine is the tail end of the 3-car train. It's becoming a bit of a 4-car train. Tom Winch has been really putting the pedal to the floor in their Ginetta, and they're reaching back towards. This is the fight for second in GT4, which is 16th overall. So worth a fair haul of points, worth a fair haul of bragging rights, but it's ultimately podium positions up for grabs. And I'm not surprised at all to see the pair of GT3s come in. They need to repair that damage after all. Gianni Lenz maybe having a bit of an issue, finding himself. Oh, no. You saw it before it happened, Jesse. You sort of know. And insult to injury, Maserati on Maserati violence. Whenever you see a car parked like that, and you know there's an incident coming, you sort of think to yourself, oh, wait, is he going to pull forward? Oh, wait, no, don't do it. No, wait. It's just it's a tricky thing to do. Something that we as commentators have reveled on many times. It's something that drivers have reveled on many times, Jesse. It's just you get a bit antsy, and you maybe aren't paying enough attention to your delta. You don't realize a car is coming, and you move, they move, and well, the results speak for themselves. 2 cars into each other, into the barrier.
I wonder if the spun car didn't see, certainly would have looked out the passenger side window, but visibility out the sides of these cars, they're race cars after all, they're not particularly great. And I wonder if maybe they thought that they were clear or had a clear space, and at the last second there is an issue. But of course, holding brakes is a huge sticking point for the RCI rulebook and the stewards, and I happen to agree with that methodology. Just be predictable out there is job number 1, and holding brakes is part of it. And the Maserati was certainly rolling a little bit forward, and that led to a more serious incident. So that right there, I think, completely illustrates why holding brakes is important and should be at a complete premium. Well, the pit window's open. Only a couple of cars have taken part. That doesn't necessarily surprise me, as most of these drivers will go as long as possible, and they will do the minimum requirement of what is required to fulfill that pit stop criteria, which is pop quiz, Jack. What is the minimum requirement today?
1 liter of fuel, mandatory minimum, and a change of tires, which may seem a bit odd to do in the wet, but well, it's not something that instead of Corsa Competizione knows the difference between a tire is a tire. If you need to change it, you need to change it. So new tires for everybody, which probably will be good news for someone who's been sliding around more than us, but the minimum fuel as well. But I can have a feeling, Jesse, drivers taking more than 1 liter of fuel. Boardman, though, all the way up the back of Stubna, virtually bum drafting as they come up the hill, and I think Boardman's going to go for it on the brakes here. It'd be a shame if he didn't, but that Camaro, though, very quick in a straight line. V8 versus V8, and on the brakes, we'll see Boardman does dive ahead, dives in, and if he gets his braking point right, he's going to make it stick, but he goes a little bit deep. Repassed immediately by Miso Stubna. He maybe had a feeling that one was coming, but a nice under and over for them, and Vicano now looking a bit hungry in the background. The 3 of them fighting now down into Rivage, and here comes the Alpine, maybe with the nose in, but not quite alongside the Aston Martin. But these 3 showing no signs of stopping. Almost, you could almost imagine this would be for the lead of the race, but well, unfortunately for them, Raphael Huell continuing to mount the charge into the distance. I think the gap now just opening up beyond 10 seconds. Joe Dauber as well, Jesse. Doesn't quite have the gap that he's looking for, but he is still holding on to the lead and trying to find his way through on Kevin Boss. The charge has begun. The GT3s, the multi-class madness, are beginning to make their way up through the GT4s.
Well, I mentioned this earlier. Nico Kumpu appeared to be quicker and, in fact, was catching Joe Dauber, and Kumpu fell back for whatever reason. I don't think they had contact with anything. I just think that they had fallen off, maybe put a wheel off of the racetrack, maybe got into the dirt somewhere, but no damage to Kumpu's Ferrari. Joe Dauber now finds himself back in that situation. Nico Kumpu has caught them for rebound racing, and they're going to continue this fight. And I wonder if maybe one of these drivers, Nico in particular, if they could use their pit stop offensively here. A lot of times in RCI, we have the mandatory stop where it's only 1 liter of fuel and no tire change, but because you are required to take tires, I think that opens up the playbook a little bit more. And I did think at the time that Ted Edwards was in his pit stall for a long time, and then I remembered he had damage and he likely repaired it. But beyond that, these pit stops will be longer than some of these drivers are used to on Monday because they are required to take tires. If I'm Joe Dauber, I'm staying out as long as humanly possible. I'm trying to stop Nico Kumpu, and if I'm Kumpu, I need to do something different, which may mean hitting pit lane this time just to get out from behind him. Man, am I a smart guy. Man,
smart fella.
It's almost like I'm old and I've seen this strategy before. I've played these games before.
A true gentleman of scholars, Jesse Lee. This time, it's not Boardman. Boardman came down pit lane. That released Sebastian Picano to try it down into the Lecombe chicane, and he seems like he's going to hang on to it from the outside. It almost seems like it's a little bit easier to do it in the outside in the rain than it is from the inside. Sebastian Picano in the Alpine up in past Miso Stubna. And I gotta say, that Corvette, whether it was trying to be a blocker car, it took a very long time. Well defended by Miso Stubna, and I'm wondering, Jesse, if maybe he's going to come down pit road this lap as well. Picano, though, now released possibly in the hunt for Raphael Huel, and everybody going as long as they can. I imagine most drivers only filled up with half a race worth of fuel, so I think there's an option that once we hit 30 that the rest are going to come down. Some drivers, though, I would anticipate, Jesse, filled up for majority of this race, maybe even the whole thing, in order to give themselves room to go as long and as late as possible.
Well, I'm curious too, because you have to take tires, so there is no strategic value on taking more fuel, but some drivers with their setup may have elected to take more fuel simply for balance reasons. We know that the Porsches are very sort of balance sensitive, and you add the rain to that also throws a monkey wrench into that. And I'm curious, I would say there's probably a mix in the field of exactly what you described, of drivers taking the minimum fuel that they thought that they were going to need to get to their scheduled stop whenever they decide to pit inside the window, versus drivers who loaded the car up on fuel just so it was heavier, just so they potentially had more grip. And I would imagine there is a mix of the two, but it won't show up, I don't think, in the timing of the pit stop, simply because they have to take tires anyway, so it's all masked by the 4-tire stop.
I think that's a really, really good point, and a lot of times that extra weight absolutely will settle the car down. That was Joe Dauber coming by Raphael Huel, so he's officially made his way through the GT4 field, or at least I think that's Raphael Huel. It is not. I was incorrect. That is a different Porsche Cayman. They all look the same. All Porsches look the same. Everybody knows this. But Dauber now, I wonder, there's a certain element of having a driver behind you, a quicker driver behind you, that you feel like you can suddenly go faster. It's the carrot or the stick. The carrot's when you're chasing. The stick is when somebody scary is behind you. And knowing Joe, I'm sure he's ice cold in there and he feels no different, but I feel like he may be just slowing down a bit. He may be feeling just a bit, lonely. Could be, but he's got plenty of GT4s to keep him company, Jesse, and I am very curious to see that when he takes his stop, we're expecting Nico to be right on his bumper, if not ahead, though there is the entering your pit stall element of ACC that can always change your fate just a little bit.
I'm not going to name names, but I do know a guy back in the day who attempted to do a pit stop as quickly as humanly possible here at Spa in ACC and ended up Austin Powersing themselves in the pit lane, which, led to an embarrassing few moments. And I also attempted to help smash them further into the pit lane to unclog it. But you never know where danger could lurk and where it could be. And if I'm Joe, you're talking about what their strategy is at this point. Go absolutely as quick as you can. You're committing to the overcut here. You don't really have a choice. Your sort of strategy was cemented when Nico Kumpu came into the pit lane. It was probably Joe's strategy all along anyway, but they need to go as quick as possible because there was no overlap between those two cars. So a fraction of a second, a tenth of difference in the pit lane will mean everything here as pit stops continue. And that's something I want to mention, Jack. It's varied. There has not been huge clumps of drivers coming into the pit lane. Every lap, it's 2, 3, maybe 4 cars in the pit lane. The majority of GT4s have already pitted. But we're seeing this now, just a trickle of GT3s in at a time.
Yeah, it's definitely the rain spreading them out just a bit. In a dry race, you tend to see everybody favoring the same thing. The wet weather creating all sorts of intrigue in tonight's event. The circuit looks a bit different. It drives a bit different. Everything's a bit slowed down, but the action though is absolutely not. Nikolai Polyakov, who sort of after last week and coming into last week's race was the favorite in GT4, but they are not showing that they have the ultimate pace in the Maserati. A couple more GT3s trickling down pit lane. Svenchek in the Boatley going in to refill and rearm. Martin Lorenk staying long as well. They are now up to second, within touching distance of Joe Dauber, though. I think that gap may have actually come down just a little bit. It's under 4 seconds. And speaking back to Nico Kumpu, something that could be a danger when you pit early in a race like this, you could find yourself pitting into traffic, cars that haven't maybe stopped yet. But Nico found himself a super well-opened track, so great news for them. Maybe not the best news for Joe Dauber. Polyakov, speaking of, unfortunately has a drive-through penalty, so their race is a lot harder, Jesse. This is also the full-length pit lane, so that drive-through penalty is huge.
Yeah, it's the worst penalty in all of motorsports. The drive-through penalty around the combined GT pit lane here at Spa-Francorchamps. Never will you find a longer trip down. And if you wonder why I reacted the way I did to Polyakov coming into the pit lane, he got very close to losing it coming in. He hit the curb in the chicane, and he got very close to hitting the grass right before you turn left to come in. And that is where the issues occur. Remember, I talked about a driver who Austin Powers themselves? That's how they did it. And they Tokyo drifted around the elbow and got stuck, and it's so easy to do. They did it in the dry back then. It's easier to do in the wet, but Polyakov made of sterner stuff. The Armamentario driver now serving the penalty for either speeding in the pit lane or track limits. Nears makes no difference. The penalty is the same, and they're stopping. Polyakov is stopping.
That would lead me to believe that there's two things happening. A retirement, they're doing their mandatory pit stop, but regardless, them stopping in their pit box means that drive-through penalty shouldn't actually end up being cleared. Because for a drive-through to be properly taken, you're not allowed to get any service done on your car. You have to drive through the pit lane. So Polyakov is going to have to do it again if and when they come back out. So that's just bad to worse for them. Richard Whittle with Whittle's Whizzers, another of the many 488s. Weirdly seeming to be an incredibly popular choice. That Alpine is drifting. I spent quite a bit of time watching practice before the race, get a feel for how it looked like when everybody's driving. Most GT3s, I would say, surprisingly serene, sedate, driving around. They aren't, sliding around, hanging it out. But the GT4s, though, four-wheel drifting into just about every corner, making it super exciting. Ted Edwards now, after their pit stop, which I can tell you was about 30 seconds longer than everybody else's in order to get that damage sorted, finds themselves in 27th currently, but they're going to make their way up, hopefully past all the GT4 traffic, and maybe, Jesse, just maybe in the final few minutes of the race, find themselves going wheel to wheel with somebody. But the leader, he's in the pit lane.
Joe Dauber in the leader. That will hand the lead of the race over to the Czech driver, Martin Lawrence. Martin, the only driver inside the top 10 that has yet to complete their pit stop. Martin, I'm assuming by virtue of not following the leader in, is going to wait to the absolute last moment to pit.
Look at how close it is with Nico.
A favorite strategy. But here comes Nico Kumpu with the run down the Kimmel straight. A little bit of a fade to the middle. There might be three wide here. What does Kumpu do? He fakes to the right. He goes down the middle. He ends up going wide. Will they get it broke up for the zone? Yes, they will. Close as you like. That is indeed as close as it could possibly have been.
I saw coming up the hill. I couldn't hold my tongue. I was like, it's gonna be bumper to bumper once they come down, and it absolutely was a brief 3 wide with Miso Stubna as company. But that shows that in free air they had identical pace from each other. Of course, Joe Dauber's been driving in free air this whole time, but Nico Company, once released, he gave it everything. And he ended up exactly where he started. So, Jesse, he did do something different, but it just didn't quite work out. And that's a testament to Joe Dauber's control over this race in the wet. He's just basically driven flawlessly, but there's still 22 minutes. There's still only a couple of tenths adrift from each other. So anything can happen, but there won't be a pit stop to change things. It's just going to have to be pace. A race replay. Jeffrey Addix maybe getting it. Oh my
word.
Lord! I think he took out Andrzej
RPMS
Batek.
car. I think that was the RPMS car.
I believe it was, but how did he end up there? He was driving
that's
down
a very good question. Here's a longer replay from the helicopter cam. Joffrey Athix. Oh, he just oh my goodness, he just loses it as if he aquaplaned. Ash Bibby, I would pay you a shiny nickel to get the in-car cam of Joffrey Athix there to figure out. That almost looked like a downshift gone wrong.
Oh,
it was a downshift gone wrong, and it was the RPMS car they hit.
Wow. And that's just, I mean, oh, that's a shame for sure. And it just shows. I think we've gotten a bit too used to how treacherous it is out there on this racetrack, showing that even in a straight line, nobody's safe. That is an unfortunate incident.
Lawrence is going for it.
Place. He saw that it would be close coming out, and he absolutely gave it some. And he is right on their tails, absolutely. So it's about only maybe 2 seconds separating the top 3. I think we're in for a bit of a barn burner of a finish here in the final 20. But I'm still absolutely perplexed by what happened to that McLaren. I know we now know why, but it's just unbelievable that something like that could happen. Very unfortunate for them and for the RPMS Lexus that they hit. I believe that's Tom Shipston in that RCF. So a passenger in that incident, certainly unfortunate, but good news, bad news. We got a fight in our hands.
The window is now closed.
We certainly do. Top 3 all together again. They've never been that far apart, but now they're as close as ever. Dauber leads, Kumpu leads Lawrence. That's the way it's been since just about the opening lap of the race. The difference is now pit stops are done. All 3 had immaculate pit stops. In my opinion, the big winner there, Martin Lawrence, who continues to close in. For my money, Nico Kumpu has a little bit more pace than Joe Dauber here. Martin may be down on overall pace in this weather condition, but if these 2 drivers, Dauber and Kumpu, start racing each other quite vigorously, that is going to play into the hands of the Czech driver. And don't forget traffic, which we will constantly be working. As I do also see on the other side of the circuit, Tom Watts has had a bit of bother on the Kimmel.
Yeah, I think everybody's starting to maybe run out of a bit of big slide. And I think that it ends up, oh, that's so unfortunate, on the outside of the kink.
Hit the brakes.
He did hit the brakes, but Will Stevenson started to lose it. And, well, fortunately for Stevenson, there's a Porsche there, because, look, straightens out perfectly, but Watts is into the wall. The dueling pair of that Porsche of Tom Watts and the McLaren of Mike Redford, well, their fight was settled by an outside party. After all, Jesse, I will say, I don't think anybody's going to be upset, of course, because Will's driving a Jag.
Yeah, I think Tom Watts will still be upset. Completely ruins their race into the wall. No fault of their own. Of course, Bill Stevenson just no grip on the outside of the racetrack. And you mentioned this earlier, partner, and I just want to reiterate it real quick. We are lulled into this false sense of security. It is absolutely chucking it down. It's actually worse weather now than when we started. The track is getting even more waterlogged than it otherwise was. and you just get complacent. You run 15, 20 laps out here, and you get complacent. You're used to the way the track is, and all of a sudden it's raining harder. It's becoming more difficult, and you start to venture around the racetrack in places, and you expect there to be grip, because why wouldn't there be? And there just isn't. I think we've seen a couple of incidents as a result of that. Speaking of further incidents, Stubna has a drive-through penalty out of 4th place in GT4, almost certainly for track limits.
Oh, that's really tough. He's been running so well. He's been defending like a lion, the Kermit Motorsports Camaro. But that's, you know, like we just talked about earlier when Polyakov got their drive-through, it's just about the worst penalty you could possibly get in terms of drive-through. It is the worst penalty you could possibly get in terms of drive-throughs. That's going to knock him down. That possibly could put him behind Mario Sergio down in 19th. I mean, those cars are some 40 seconds behind these ones, but that is how long it's going to be. Tom Winch, though, it's going to be good news for him, because the roadblock of the Camaro is going to get out of the way, as he's getting out of the way of some GT3 traffic. It's still happening all the time. Everybody as spread out as they are, any moment they're going to have to deal with traffic pretty much every lap, as if there's not enough to deal with. So Stubna, though, as he's coming to, I assume, serve the drive-through at the end of this lap, might lose the position on circuit to Tom Winch, because as a result of that traffic, he's got a bit of a run coming to him towards Blanchimont, not a curve of Paul Fair. But no, I think that Camaro has the legs. It's seeming like, Jesse, Camaro's had the legs all night in terms of straight line speed. Ted Edwards still making his way up, slowly but surely. The Race Ventura driver coming back after being in the wall so early in this race.
97 off in Lecombe, and they're going to retrieve their car and get back going the right way. But you're talking about the Camaro and also the Mustang. You know, there's that old saying, there's no replacement for displacement, and in certain cases that's true. The POP kind of chokes that a little bit. Racing action here between Richard Whittle and Redford, a little argy-bargy, but other than that, no real damage done. Richard Whittle will continue on. Mike Redford in the background, but scary moment indeed. We saw that go way worse for some of the other competitors. Fortunately, they were able to sort that out. They have not sorted this out. Look at this now. Martin Lawrence up to P2. Nico Kumpu has certainly had an additional slip, and they continue to slip look in the Ferrari. That car looking very much unsettled. Martin Lawrence, big BMW. It looks like it's on rails almost all of a sudden.
That's unbelievable. Nico Kumpu, if you would have asked me 10 minutes ago who was my money on for winning this race, I honestly might have put my chips down on Kumpu, but Martin Lorenk, the dark horse in the dark car, finding his way up into second. He was relegated to third for the whole race, and wondering, knowing Martin Lorenk and knowing how patient of a driver, he biding his time, waiting for his moment to strike, and after the pit stop he found it. He realized that on these new tires I seem to just be a bit more planted than dear old Nico. The M6 showing its stripes, getting going. The question being, will he stay ahead of Nico, and will he get within range of Joe Dauber? Dauber, though, taking the fastest lap away from Nico a little while ago and showing no signs, Jesse, absolutely no signs of slowing down.
Well, the British driver loved that. First of all, his nearest rival for the entire race just got taken down to third place, and in the process of that, gained nearly a second on second place, which is now Martin Lawrence. And if you were Joe Dauber, this is probably the configuration you would want. Martin in front of Nico, because if Nico is going to challenge, then he's got to get back by Martin Lawrence, and there's a short list of drivers that I wouldn't want to ever have to pass that would certainly give me nightmares, and the Czech driver Martin Lawrence is one of them. That is a tough, he's fair, certainly fair, but very tough, because once he gets by you, he just doesn't relinquish the position. But we'll monitor this gap. It's 1.6 seconds the gap first to second place. Does Martin Lawrence have anything for Joe Dauber, who's led this entire race.
He's not got too much time to sort it out, but still plenty of laps and plenty of tricky corners for just a, it's not even much that needs to happen with Joe Dauber. It's just a little slide, probably similar to the one that Nico Kumpu had that allowed Lawrence through in the first place. Just something, little moments that he can attack on. He's absolutely gonna do it. But actually, just then, out of Rivage, I think Joe Dauber went a bit deep there, because now a bit closer is the BMW. Joe, if you're listening, stop, focus. I'm not supposed to be the one that's distracting you here, but Martin Lorenk is really reeled in, and I still wouldn't count Nico Kumpu out of this fight any which way. These three, rather, mainstays of Monday, mainstays of ACC, friends, rivals on track, wonderful drivers, wonderful talents, and I'm running out of nice things to say about them, but there's no things I can say that aren't worth it. Sebastian Picano, though, I'm noticing, I was going to say he's been leading the race in GT4 for quite some time. Unfortunately for him, no pit stop was completed. That will be a hefty penalty at the end of the race, and possibly... Okay, so as it turns out, Sebastian Picano did take a pit stop, but it wasn't within the pit window, and or possibly wasn't within the mandatory regulations, perhaps not taking tires. But Raphael Huell, 6 seconds behind. That is going to be a hefty penalty. I apologize, I don't remember off the top of my head what it's going to be. It's a 1 minute 29-second stop for Picano. That would lead me to believe that tires were not in fact put on that car. Maybe Sebastian thinking, it's raining, why would I need extra tires? In every series you don't have to take tires. But of course, I spoke about it a bit earlier on. The shortcoming, one of the shortcomings of ACC are the fact that rule cannot be forgiven even when in the wet. If you're taking tires, you got to be taking tires. Nico Kumpu on the charge up the hill. Lorenk was really wide and really slippery. I think there's might be a moment here for the 488. Talked about how on the knife's edge all of these drivers are, but M6 looking very quick, and I think Nico Kumpu diving out of the spray for a moment and maybe biding their time, thinking, if I want to make a move on Lorenk, I don't want it to be with 10 minutes ago. I probably want it to be 2 minutes ago, 1 minute ago, final lap of the race, if I can rig it that way. Nico Kumpu, driver's eye view from the onboard, we sort of see what it looks like, maybe an idea of what it feels like to be behind the M6 at this stage, and you can see not as frantic as you'd expect. Just looking at the steering wheel coming in the corner, you sort of think, they'd be fighting the car, right? There's a little bit of corrections here, similar to what you'd see in the drive out of Pouaneau, a better indication. A drive-through penalty I've just seen pop up from Mike Redford. Nico Kumpu still fighting, still closing on the back of Martin Lorenk, and that is all good news for Joe Dauber, because that means he's able to push ahead just a bit. See, maybe on the brakes, the 488 looking a little bit better as they come out of the corner. Curve of Paul Frere, they are perhaps touching each other on the exit. The M6 is known for being a bit of a straight line specialist. See what they look like coming into Blanchimont. Yep, that M6 has already stretched its legs just a little bit, using all of the circuit available. It amazes me that these cars can go under those curves without spinning, because they're so darn wet. Through the bus stop, though, you can see it's. I would, if I was betting money, and I don't, and I wouldn't, but on setup strategy between Martin and Nico, is that Nico probably preferred a bit of a higher downforce setup, one that maybe favors stability in the wet and stability in the second sector, whereas the BMW M6 of Martin Lorenk, it might be granting him some extra speed in the first and third sector, as is always customary in the M6. Mr. Matt Malcolm sharing a bit of information with us in our box, which I trust him. He's a very smart fella. He's thinking that the restrictor within the M6 is helping traction out of corners a bit more than it would be in the 488. And that could be a very, very good shout. Raphael Huell, who is our net leader in GT4. Sebastian Picano, of course, is ahead, but that is a hefty, greater than 6-second penalty. I can guarantee that. I think it might be 35, 45 seconds for getting the pit requirements wrong. It's unfortunate for Picano because he's looking for a really good result, possibly a third, maybe a second. But at the moment, they might be dropping down to maybe a fifth place position overall. I'm going to take a moment as things have calmed down. Never mind, I won't, because they haven't calmed down, of course. These two are going to be going wheel to wheel all evening, but I will still take a moment while they are giving us a beautiful bit of background wheel to wheel to thank some of the people that help us do what we do here at RCI. Of course, I'm referring to some of our wonderful, wonderful partners. It is days like these where I wish I had a proper setup for my race car, and if I was looking to go anywhere, and if I was recommending you to go anywhere, I'd recommend checking out Coach Dave Delta. Their wonderful setups, their helpful apps, and their available coaching are all things that can help you get up to the top step. Climb the ladder in sim racing, maybe one day challenge the likes of a Nico Company, a Martin Warwick, a Joe Togger, perhaps. These guys are unbelievable, and setups help them be even more unbelievable. If you're looking for a bit of gear, that's a wayward 488. I think he's going to lose a bit to Martin Warwick. But if you're looking for more sim racing gear, you're looking to build the sim rig of your dreams, or more realistically, your budget, head over to Ready, Set, Sim. They will have you covered with everything. If you're looking for just some new direct drive hardware and trying to decide who your next wheelbase is maybe getting from, maybe new pedals, something like that, I recommend checking out Moser Racing. Their quality is unmatched. Their pricing is out of this world. Super well priced, super well built. Wonderful, wonderful gear for racing, for trucking, for flying airplanes. It's very cool stuff from them, releasing all the time. And if saving money's your bag, and I hope it is, wasting money's pointless. Why spend more than you need to? Head over to Green Man Gaming. They have fantastic deals, seasonal or just on a regular basis, because they can, on hot new PC games, new releases, not just sim titles. And they are wonderful. Recommend checking them out weekly. So they always got something going on, some deal on some excellent game on PC. If you're interested in saving some more money and you're interested in the best-in-class resolution VR headsets over at Pimax, good news, we have an exclusive discount code with them, and they need no introduction because they make pretty much the best stuff in the business when it comes to VR hardware. Final thank you to Motorsport UK for having us as a recommended esports community. And the good news is, racing is still happening. The other good news is, for my sanity, nobody overtook each other like they always like to do. Tom Watts, though, is getting close. And Ted Edwards finally finding himself a sparring partner in GT3. It took him about 40 minutes. But he's now going to do it in style. They're going to go too wide down the Road Rouge, but I think Morgan's going to drop back and say, no, that would be foolish. 4 minutes to go? Surely not. But Ted Edwards, though, he's no longer on the bottom pile in GT3 cars. Super tricky race for him. An incident that there really wasn't a whole lot he could do much about. Damaged car, slow pit stop, but he's come back through his way. 17th overall. And most importantly, second to last in GT3. This is Tibor Roskam with Marco Badowski just behind, closing in by a heck of a lot, trying to find their way up into the top 5 in the final moments of our race tonight. This is, of course, as a reminder, only round 3 of our 8-round championship. Extra long, extra special for the Monday ACC finale. There are a few spots remaining. You can feel free to sign up in the reserve list as well, GT3 or GT4. We'd love to have you. And it just looks like a heck of a lot of fun, regardless of how difficult it is out there tonight. All that is in the description below. Join the Discord, check us out on SimGrid, all that good stuff. Badowski, though, my hat's off to him. The only thing I know about the Audi R8 GT3 LMS thing is it is an absolute handful, in the words of Ash Bibby, a freaking pig to drive. And to carry that thing around all night in the heaping rain is mighty, mighty impressive. The fight for the front having changed just a little bit, because Martin Lawrence, we saw under pressure from Kumpu last time we looked, has now started to apply that pressure on Joe Dauber, trading 1488 for another. But the JD Triple OG, Mr. Dauber, gonna hold on as hard as he can. Fortunately getting through on the Aston Martin, not losing too much time. Fortunately for them, as they're gonna get ready to start their final lap, I don't anticipate too much traffic. There are some GT4s, they are spread out. There are ways down the field though, so hopefully that's not going to hamper the race at all. But Joe Dauber, he put it on pole. He's led just about every lap, save for the few that Mark Lawrence was leading when he went long. But Dauber, though, pretty much unbeatable here tonight. Pretty much made no mistakes, and these conditions are absolutely unbelievable, and a great comeback drive from Alton Park, and a comeback drive in its own right tonight. Aaron Jackson, the Kaiju Racing Godzilla GTR, from the very back of the starting field behind all the GTRs up into the top 10, now pressuring Will Stevenson for 9th place. Super impressive, super well driven. It's not easy to get through on GT4 traffic on the opening lap. I can't imagine rather, how difficult it would be to do it in the wet. You just heard the race director is signaling that the final lap has begun. And the best news of all, Jesse Lee made it in time to see in style what our racers have in store for us in the final lap.
Can I just say, for the vast majority of the drivers for a second week in a row, just absolutely brilliant racing here in treacherous conditions. Last week, it was the racetrack itself that was the obstacle. Today, it's the racetrack and the weather. And the fact that we got through lap one more or less unscathed, and now, again, a fantastic finish here. The last lap of the race, Martin Lawrence putting it all on the line. They needed to make up nearly 2 seconds worth of gap. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, but that doesn't mean that Martin isn't going to try, and he's going to over-try here. A huge Formula drift in the corner, and that is going to be all she wrote.
Joe Dauber no longer needing to worry anymore. The M6 is far enough away that with only a few corners left to go, another sector, here comes the Kaiju on the jag into La Source, not able to do it, but Dauber probably breathing as much of a sigh of relief as can be breathed, but they're going to do it too wide. Surely not. Go out in style. All the space in the world being given from Will Stevenson. Fortunately, though, enough room given equally by Aaron Jackson, which means they can make it up like it looks easy. Oh, I say that, and Aaron Jackson nearly ending up in the wall. But how do they do this, Jesse? I don't understand. These unbelievably talented drivers, some of which are coming back to ACC for the first time in months, if not years, making it look easy, showing us how it's done. And one final battle is underway. That was such a save from the GTR, and again, hats off to Aaron Jackson for making his way up the entire field and into the top 10. Jesse Dauber is coming through and getting ready to win this race.
Joe Dauber did everything right, qualified up front, ran a fantastic race, got the strategy right, and most importantly, kept everything under control. It's a brilliant, deserved win for Rebound Racing's Joe Dauber. Martin Lawrence fought against everything finished P2. Nico Kumpu rounds out the podium in third place. And we haven't talked about Andre Baddock at all today. It's been a quiet, workman-like performance from the Lexus, but it will be fourth place and a boatload of points, no pun intended, for Baddock. Theobald Roscom comes home in fifth position in the Porsche. I love that livery, by the way, on that car. Stands out indeed. Behind them, Badowski comes to the line. Now Tom Shipston for RPMS, despite the dramas, will still come home seventh. Svinček across the line. Stevenson will be next in the GT3 category, but it's going to be Raphael Huell in the GT4 category. They're going to win the race. Never mind Picciano. They've got a penalty, and I believe that should relegate them somewhere outside of the top few positions. Even if it doesn't show that on this screen, it will update in the final scores. Looks like Boardman's going to finish second in GT4, as looks like Clifford Morgan for New Jazz runs off the racetrack right there at the end. Ted Edwards comes through to complete what was a thrilling but difficult race for them. And it is Boardman P2 at GT4 and Tom Winch rounding out the podium in GT4. Mario Sergio, ALDS 244 Porsche, will be next across the line, and some 7 seconds behind them, Callum Kerrigan and Stubna will come across the line. What a day it was for Stubna, potentially frustrating for the Chevrolet.
Yeah, I think, though, we're going to have one more last bout between Stubna and Kerrigan. The last two to cross the line. This is for 20th overall, or 19th overall, excuse me. Actually, no, it's 18th, I think, as Picciano has been dropped down officially in the timings, but Kerrigan's able to hold on to it. A great drive from Callum Kerrigan, a great comeback from Miso Stubna to return from that drive-through and still finish well. Our results as they come in, starting with GT3, it's going to be Joe Dauber across the line in absolute style, fending off Nico Kumpu, fending off Martin Lorenk. Lorenk, of course, finishing second. Kumpu in third. Andrzej Batek, a workhorse of a performance in the Lexus, finishing fourth. Tibor Roskam in the old gen, excuse me, actually, that's the new gen 911. There's a couple old ones rattling around in this championship somewhere as well. Marco Badowski making it so in the tricky-to-drive Audi R8. Shipston in seventh. Svenček in the Boatley in eighth, doing better than Will Stevenson. Billiam Stevenson in the Emil Frey Jag. And it's not just the top 10 for Will Stevenson. It's a ninth place in the wet, in Spa. Unbelievable. Aaron Jackson, comeback drive from the back of the field in 10th. With 11th, Peter Varga in 12th. Ted Edwards, 13th. Morgan, 14th. Athox, 15th. Craig Skay retiring in 17th. And McKenna McConnell, a retirement as well for the GT3 drivers. And Jesse, why don't you take it through the results in GT4?
Well, the tale of the tape, 2 dominating days, one by Dauber, one by Raphael Huell. Just an excellent masterclass in driving around in the wet at Spa for Raphael Huell, outlasting Andy Boardman, who gets a deserved P2. The same could be said for Winch in third. Sergio and Kerrigan, the top 5 finishers there. Stubna, Picciano, Fantozzi, Boss, and Watts, the top 10. Even after the crash, remember that horrific incident on the Kimmel Straight, Tom Watts still finishes inside the top 10. Redford, Lowe, Fav, Kilmov, Tucky, Polyakov, Schaefer, Linz, and Fox, the 19 drivers that took part. It would appear as if 15 of those made it to the line tonight. Well, we got a full box as always. Jack, how about we do this? We take one driver each, we hand off one question each. Let's get to it.
Absolutely, partner. And we will begin with the man who I believe we found first. The winner overall tonight, the winner in GT3, none other than JD Triple OG. He has another name, but I won't subject him to that live. Mr. Joe Dauber, congratulations on your victory today. One simple question to start off with: how was it out there?
Slippy. The Ferrari's always fun, and it's good in the wet. But yeah, it was very, very slippy today. And it wasn't pleasant having a e-sporter chasing me down for the last 20 minutes or so. But just about survived it.
It's beautiful work there. And Jesse, hopefully you'll have a slightly more interesting question. I feel like mine was a little bit basic, but a good answer from Joe nonetheless. What do you got for him?
No, I was just going to say congratulations, Joe. What is that feeling like in the cockpit of the car? You know the driver's behind you. You know their resume, but you've got a resume just as long, in my opinion. But what's that like to deal with that for an hour, never having more than 2 seconds of a gap in those conditions?
I was just trying to minimize the mistakes, if I'm honest. I don't think any of us play a lot of ACC anymore, so we're probably a little bit rusty. And, you know, one mistake on this track can, especially in those conditions, can destroy the car. And of course, probably like quite a few of us, after 30 or 40 minutes, I was on the 3 warnings, so just trying to keep it sensible as much as anything.
Well, it was certainly a deserved win. Anyone you want to shout out for this victory?
Just the Rebound Racing and Vulcan Racing boys.
Well, there you have it. Joe Dauber, your winner overall in the GT3 category, outlasted all of them today. Joe Dauber,
Right.
your winner at Spa. Congrats.
Thank you.
I found myself the fan favorite here, none other than Mr. Bill Stevenson, as he's been today. The Jag driver, of course. The most regular occurrence post race is having Will in the box with us. Tricky race, tricky start, huge moments up in the Kemmel Straight. We saw you very nearly have your race ended and end your race once or twice, a few times, a little bit sketchy out
Only a
there,
couple
but
times.
I mean, to finish ninth in the Jag, I know a top 10 was what you wanted. You got one better than that here today. How does that feel?
Yeah, that was just survival. To be completely honest, not having any like TC cut means I was having to run TC2 for the whole race because otherwise the car would just like bog out of corners, and it was an interesting race.
I think interesting is underselling it just a tad bit. Epic is another word for it. That was so much fun, and I'm sure you had your fair share. And over to Mr. Lee.
All right, Will, I've got to ask a serious question. In as few words as possible, describe what it's like to drive that car around this racetrack in those conditions.
How do I do this without swearing?
You can swear. We can't swear. You can swear.
Can I use 2 words?
Sure. I just said
Fucking
in this.
nightmare.
All right. Well, there you go. We don't condone the language of Bill Stevenson, but we can certainly appreciate that. Will, anyone you want to shout out?
Tom Watts, who I brutally murdered by almost dropping it. Well, kind of dropping it on the Kemmel. That was, yeah, not my intention, obviously. As always, you guys, the stream's always great to watch back and everything. It's always good to go and watch it back. And all the drivers making it, what was it, like 30-something, 37 in completely torrential Spa conditions does always make this so much more fun.
There you have it. Will Stevenson, a fan favorite of everyone. We try not to play favorites in the booth, but I mean, how could you not with the Jag? Congratulations, Will, on another top 10.
Thank you.
Is there a Mr. Andy Boardman in the house, driver of the Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT4? My good man, one off of victory today, but an absolutely stellarly driven race. You were kept company by an Alpine and a Camaro for most of the race. It certainly didn't look easy, though I have a feeling it probably wasn't, and I'm probably right on. But fighting with those two, were you having fun, or was it a little bit too scary for your liking?
No, it was great fun actually. Yeah. I mean, I was watching them and just waiting for one of them to make a little mistake so I could kind of have a go. And yeah, fortunately that happened. I managed to get past Picano, and then yeah, I was battling with Stubner and couldn't really get past him. And then I thought, right, I'm pitting this lap anyway. And fortunately, I managed to put him slightly offline going into the last corner. So that was the perfect time for me to pit because I knew he was going to be compromised on that lap. So I thought, yeah, I'm definitely pitting this lap. I thought I'd missed my pit box. I somehow, because I didn't practice. I practiced the pit entry, but I didn't practice the pit stop. And obviously downhill in the wet, I thought, shit. But fortunately, I somehow got lucky and just nailed it. So I didn't lose any time at all there. And then the second stint, I noticed Picano didn't. I think he missed his pit stop, and Stubner obviously got a drive through, which was a bit of a relief for me because I was with 20 minutes to go. I was on a final warning myself. The second half was really tricky because the rain was coming down so much. It was so easy just to drift offline and get a really dubious track limit. So yeah, the last 20 minutes I really backed off. I thought there's no point trying to beat Raphael. There's no way I was catching him up. So I just thought, second's good. I'm not risking a drive through. So I really, I backed off quite a bit the last sort of 10 minutes, quarter of an hour. But yeah, it was a fun race. It was a really fun race.
Yeah, that all to me just sounds like the experience outweighing, certain other aspects, making all the right calls ultimately, and sometimes knowing, hey, maybe a second place isn't so bad when the alternative could be fifth or a sixth with a super long drive-through penalty. So, of course, well measured and well driven by you, Andy, one of our mainstays here on Monday. And Mr. Lee, any words for Mr. Boardman?
Well, I just want to say to Andy, man, it's going to be a sad day whenever there's no ACC Mondays anymore because we don't get to see Boardman drive the absolute wheels off of race cars on Monday. So I don't have a question. I just wanted to share that with you and ask you if there's anyone you want to shout out.
Well, thanks for that. That's massively appreciated. I'm sure whenever the next Monday champ comes up, whatever that's going to be, I'll give it a go. Yeah, shout out to you guys, obviously, for putting on the events, everyone for turning up. And a shout out to the Maserati drivers because that must have been so difficult in the Maserati. I'd have probably crashed, I think. So yeah, shout out to them for turning up and give it a go.
Well, there you have it. Andy Boardman, an inspired drive today in amidst incredibly difficult conditions, but honestly, we kind of expected it from the driver, Andy Boardman. Jack, I hear you're down with the GT4 winner.
Absolutely. And speaking of one better, yet again, it's Mr. Raphael Huel, who, well, didn't necessarily cross the line first, but as a penalty was ensuing, knew immediately that it was all in hand. It was a hell of a drive in the wet. The Porsche coming across first. And simple question for you: are you pleased with your car of choice?
Yeah. Today especially, it felt really planted in the wet, and I couldn't wish for another car right now.
I mean, we kind of know you as a Porsche boy. I feel like pretty much everything is going to be a Porsche. I think whenever you're in LMU, I think I've only seen you drive the 911 GT3 or the Porsche hypercar. So Porsche through and through. I'm glad it's giving you one great final ride Monday's ACC, and of course plenty more championship to go from you, and more championship rounds to come from you in this race. Maybe I just willed on a championship victory. I don't know. I'll go ahead and cheat and ask my second question myself. Championship hopes? How are we feeling?
Not really looking at that because obviously I missed round one. So I'm starting on the back foot, but
There is a drop round. Just so
oh,
you know.
that's good.
Maybe I just changed your answer.
No, I know how fast the other drivers are, and I think today in the wet it's just a slightly different race in the GT4. I don't think I could have done it in the dry because, yeah, just not the quickest in those conditions. But yeah, the rain saved me, I think.
Well, I think one of the few drivers then definitely who's pleased with the conditions. An absolutely phenomenal drive from you, and congratulations again. I do believe a slightly perturbed Ford Mustang driver has been found by Jesse Lee. Jesse, I hear you found yourself a Ted.
I'm blah, blah, blah. I am down here with Ted, but Huel, anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, once again, you guys for making such amazing streams. It's always great casting, always great to look back, and obviously the Monday gang, the voice chat, it keeps the races more entertaining than they would be without.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have Raphael Huel in the field, and a win today, right where I suspect you should be. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ted Edwards is standing beside me, and I will say, Ted, we were promised the Mustang. You delivered the Mustang, and boy, what an adventure it was out there. How would you describe the conditions in the race today?
Wet. No, honestly, it was fun. Even though I crashed at Blanchemont after repairing my damage and putting new tires on, forgetting that I need to get them warmed up and get some grip in them, I quite enjoyed that.
Well, it was very entertaining to watch. Was it half as fun as it looked?
I'm tired.
Tired, sweaty?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you have it. Ted, anybody you want to shout out? Are you coming back? I think is another question I have. Are you coming back in the staying next week?
Yeah, I might finish the champ off. I need to. Thing is, haven't driven a GT3 and ACC for like a year and a half, right? And I come in for the first race and it's wet, so I have no idea what my pace is. I have no idea how this car handles with its restrictor on, because it was very slow today on the straights. But yeah, I'm definitely coming back for next week.
Anybody you would like to shout out?
You guys for doing the broadcast, Kevin for doing the champ, even though it was a bit too wet for my liking, but it was fun. But yeah, you guys, everyone watching, and everyone who drives with the Monday gang for making me laugh during the race.
There you go. Ted Edwards providing the entertainment and making good on the promise to bring the Mustang to the Monday champ. Jack is down with Uri Svenchek.
Svenchek, first of all, thank you for bringing the Bentley to our eyes. I remember seeing that sign up, and I'm always excited to see it. Today, it truly came into its what I call its true form, because we get to call it the Boatly here in the booth, and it was a unique fight getting to watch you going wheel to wheel with Will in the Jag. I mean, just talk me through, what that felt like. Two sort of unlikely cars in a modern championship getting to fight it out with each other.
Oh, it was frustrating. Like not because of Will. Will is doing amazing job in that Jag, but I couldn't see anything. I was literally just on his diffuser for a few laps and hitting the brake marks and stuff. It was frustrating, and I was trying to be careful because I don't want to ruin the race for him. But we had a really good race. It needs to be said. It was really fun to see him, driving the wheels of it. So I'm happy that we could actually have a good fight between each other.
Driving the wheels off it, if you maybe perhaps will. But no, it was so great to see you out there. Congrats on the top 9 Jesse, any slightly intelligent, not pun-based questions from you?
Never with me. You're not going to get anything intelligent from this man. But you're right. What's it like to race in those conditions and to sort of you're going back and forth with a couple of drivers, and maybe you're not racing for top brass, but it still means something, right? Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, for me, I really enjoyed driving the Bentley. I don't care the conditions, even though these were very hard conditions and tough. And I probably enjoyed it more. It's always about driving the car. You know, if you don't enjoy driving on ACC or or whatever car you drive, you probably will not enjoy it. And you know, you always try to push the car to the limit because that's the sweet spot. You know, that's what you are trying to achieve all along. So it's perfect when the whole lap, when you hit the perfect lap. You know, that feeling. It's one of the best feelings in the whole world, for me at least. And Bentley is well, is like a old friend. You know, you always enjoy have that perfect lap with Bentley. So yeah.
Well, Jack wanted me to have words of wisdom, but I think Uri is the one who actually had the wholesome words of wisdom there. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody you want to shout out, Uri, before we go?
You guys here in commentators box, you make the whole championship fun, and you know I can enjoy it twice, if that makes sense. You know, I drive and then I can watch it later on and still enjoy the race from different perspective. Also the viewers, I like, yeah, viewers and the drivers who finished and enjoyed the race. So yeah, shout out to those guys.
Well, you've been sort of part of the heart of what makes RCI so fun to cast for so many years. So thank you so much for that, and good luck for the rest of the
Thank
championship.
you very
Ladies and
much.
gentlemen, Uri Svenchek. Uh, from Svenchek down to Check Jesus, Jack's with Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, the current man who's championing the Boatley to a man who is deeply, intimately familiar as well with the Bentley Continental GT3, Martin Lawrence. It was close to a victory on the cusp in the final moments. He really came near and dear to having a move on Joe Dauber, but it sort of came undone. Your pace was yo-yoing a bit, and you seem to really have it in the final, or the second stint rather. Talk me through, you know, how the car felt underneath you after the pit stop. We may be missing a Martin. Does anybody see a Martin around? I found him, Mr. Loring. Welcome in. Do we got you now? I think we might be having a few technical issues. If you everyone try waving their hands around. I don't know what difference that would make, but I feel like that could make a difference.
We'll give Martin a minute to try and figure out his audio situation. And in the meantime, Jack, why don't you tell him about our lovely partners?
Yeah, we've got some great partners. Gave them a shout out earlier on, and it's always worth talking about them again. Wonderful people that help us do the wonderful things that we do here at RCI. And thank you to Ready Set Sim. Thank you to Coach Dave Delta. Thank you to Green Man Gaming, Moser Racing, Pimax, and of course, special thank you to Motorsport UK for having us as a recommended sim racing community. I do think, though, we're going to wait just a few more moments, hoping that we can get Martin Loink around. Do we turn it off? Do we turn it back on, Jesse? Or are we green to go?
He is good to go. Back down to you, Jack, with Martin Lawrence.
Martin,
I found the sweet spot.
Wonderful. It was just what Euro was talking about. That's all about finding the sweet spot. That's where all the fun is. I'm glad you're able to to find
So,
it.
yeah.
But your pace in the second stint, talk me through that.
In the first stint, it was kind of a survival. After like 20 minutes, I got 3 warnings. I think everyone did, because when I was on the voice with Mr. Stubня, and he was kind of on the same pace with the warnings. So it was a bit of a yo-yo. I think in the second stint, it was more and more water on the track, and the Bimmer was like still doing almost the same pace. Wasn't really worse, better. It wanted to kill me in almost every corner whenever I touched the TC. So I was running kind of high TC for my liking, but well, nothing I can do. I was running a very little wing. I was running wing 2 out of 8 because it's just the settings of the M6 is just so broken. The car is in such a sketchy situation that even on Alton I was running low wings because the car just doesn't work at all. The Kunos broke it completely. So the only way how to drive it is low wing and completely flat. Otherwise, it's not working because traction is broken, turbo lock is broken. Lots of complaints, and I have so many complaints, so I can like feel good about finishing like on any place. I have a lot of excuses for everything.
Any good racing driver has a whole host of excuses. But
Yes,
I will
box of
say,
excuses. I think who was the inventor? Tom Bryant? Box of excuses, maybe? Something like
could
that.
be somebody.
Anyway, it was a yo-yo, but in the second stint, I think I kind of nailed better the tire pressure, and the Ferraris were a little bit struggling on more water coming up. So yeah, and obviously I was only waiting for them to do a mistake, because if you do a mistake somewhere from La Source to Lecombe, the M6 was there instantly, because just the top speed of the car is just insane. It's just so damn good on the straight because of the wing mainly, but yeah. So I was just sort of a hyena. I was just waiting and waiting what it's gonna do, because in the corners with the track combination of the traction and big car and yeah, suboptimal brakes. Yeah, nothing I could do. I'm absolutely happy. I would be happy even with the P3 after 60 minutes, but P2, well, that's a bonus, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, you go through your box of excuses, you say all those things, which just makes me think that must be the most horrific car in the world to drive. But you make
I
it
will.
work, which is
I can
just a
send you the
testament.
setup, and you
I
can
don't,
try
I don't,
it.
I don't want to be near it. I don't even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. No, I just the Czech Jesus name being earned time and time again. Not quite to the top of the field, but in that car, it seems like that would be a hell of an effort. Jesse Lee, any thoughts and prayers you want to give to Martin with his M6?
No, because I don't buy into his sort of racing driver excuses attitude. Martin, you and I are similar in age. We've been around a long
Oh,
time, and we've.
to my
That's either good or bad depending on how you look at it, Martin. Now, listen, I didn't say how old we are, but let's just say the wheel was invented right before we were born. But the point is that you may have heard some of your other competitors come in here and give interviews and say, "Well, it was tough because there was an esports driver behind me." What does that do to your ego? Hearing like, "Oh man, there is this formidable driver that I know I'm going to have to beat week in and week out." What does that do to you as a driver? Is that a shot in the arm, or do you think that it's a little overhyped?
well, I always like it when someone thinks like that, because that's a bonus for me, because they can get under pressure, they can do the mistakes because of it. It's fun, but in the end, I'm just a regular guy. My I'm not even that extra fast. It's just like my consistency that gets me somewhere. Yeah. So if anyone thinks like an esport driver will be fast, no, I wasn't. I was never a hot lapper. Never ever. So I'm happy with it. If the people thinks it and they can do mistakes out of it, That's perfectly fine from me.
Well, Martin, it's always a pleasure to have you in the race. We know that you're going to make it exciting one way or another. Hell of a chase out there tonight as well. Anyone you want to shout out before we go?
To everyone, obviously, even to Ironman, the Ryan Gill, because he made a beautiful livery. I was running today for the esport team, and obviously whole esport team and the community on RCI to make these races happen, because it's just a joy.
Well, we love having you. Good luck in the remainder of the championship. We'll be watching indeed. Martin Lawrence, P2 today, but was always right there in the hunt as we would expect. You know, it's been a fantastic race here on Monday Champ, as it often is. 2 weeks in a row, difficult track conditions, difficult racetracks. But I think the overarching sort of story is that the majority of the drivers in a huge field able to make it count and get a great race and great results when they need them. The championship completely wide open. And you may have noticed, I've mentioned a few times just how important the drivers are. And I think the thing for us here in the broadcast booth that we don't say a lot is how important a lot of these drivers are to us as broadcasters. We talk to them. We live and die with them on the racetrack. They provide us entertainment, but without them, the races wouldn't happen, let alone be interesting. So my final thought today is my hat's off to every driver for 2 weeks in a row, putting together several excellent races that could have been complete chaos. Instead, were beautiful works of art, exactly what we expected, though. ACC has provided us with some fantastic moments, and it will continue to do that the rest of this season. But I just wanted to shout out the drivers that shout us out all the time. Shout out to you for making it all so special. Jack?
It's not something that can be overstated how important the drivers are. We'd be nowhere without them. We'd just be two men shouting at a cloud, which is not far off from what we do week in and week out. Of course, if you're interested in joining the fun, being one of our wonderful, wonderful drivers, there is this event to sign up for. There's the newly announced prototype P2 single class race on LMU that will be beginning in a few weeks' time on Thursdays. We will be back broadcasting on Friday for another round of the multi-sprint series. That as well, feel free to sign up for. Both championships a little full, but there's always reserve spots, always an opportunity to join the fun and join the community we have here at RCI. Final thank you from us in the booth for all of you for watching. Final thank you again, like I said, can't be overstated, to all of our drivers. We will look forward to being with you at the end of the week for multi-sprint, and we will look forward to the next round of the Mini British GT. Be good to yourselves. Have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you all soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow, go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, they always fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye.